Agatha moved around the house with almost mechanical precision. The vacuum cleaner hummed under her expert hands, and the aroma of freshly cooked dinner filled the air. She had prepared Bruno's favorite dish, a veal schnitzel stuffed with cheese and ham, followed by a delicate raspberry soufflé. Every movement was a reflection of her dedication and care. From time to time, as night fell, the sounds of traffic faded and the hallway clock struck 7. Bruno arrived late, as usual. He entered the house with heavy steps, throwing his briefcase on the floor without even looking at Agatha, who rushed to hug him. "Hello, how was your day?" she asked, trying to sound cheerful. Bruno barely looked up, muttering a greeting as he headed straight for the kitchen. Agatha followed him, watching as he sat down at the carefully set table. The open bottle of wine didn't elicit a smile from him, and his frown deepened as he saw the food. During dinner, Bruno ate listlessly, pushing the food around with his fork. Agatha watched him nervously, trying to find a way to break the silence. "Do you like dinner?" she tried, her voice barely concealing her anxiety. "It's fine," Bruno replied, without looking up from his plate. "Work was a disaster today. Sales are down and revenue isn't improving." Agatha bit her lip, her fingers playing with the edge of the tablecloth. "Maybe we could talk about other options for the company, find a solution together." Bruno put down his fork with a thud. "Solutions? Now you're a business expert?" His tone was biting. "I have enough problems at work to come here and listen to criticism." Silence fell heavily between them. Agatha felt small, her effort to please Bruno seemingly in vain. Dinner ended in an uncomfortable silence, and Bruno retired to the living room, turning on the television without a single glance at Agatha. Later, in bed, Agatha lay with her eyes open, the glow of Bruno's phone illuminating the room. He had turned his back on her, immersed in his virtual world. Agatha squeezed her eyelids shut, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill over. "Bruno," she whispered in the darkness, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" "I'm tired, Agatha." "Not now," was the curt reply, followed by the sound of Bruno turning even further away, closing off any space for conversation. Agatha remained motionless, feeling the distance between them grow wider and wider. She hugged herself, seeking comfort in the emptiness of the night. The tension in the house was palpable, a constant shadow that loomed over every corner, and Agatha couldn't help but feel that something was terribly wrong. The morning began like any other. Agatha was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with a hopeful expression on her face. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the room, while the soft sound of toast breaking the silence. Bruno, however, seemed absent. Sitting at the table, he was intently checking his phone, barely looking up when Agatha placed a plate in front of him. "How did you sleep?" Agatha asked, trying to keep her tone cheerful. "Fine," Bruno replied without looking at her, his fingers swiping the phone screen. Agatha sighed and turned back to the stove, stirring the eggs with mechanical movements. Her smile faded when she heard Bruno speak softly. "Yes, I'll call you later." "No, she can't talk now," he whispered, glancing at the kitchen door. Agatha stopped, her heart pounding. She continued cooking, her trembling hands spilling some oil on the pan. She bit her lip, trying not to let panic overwhelm her. "Who were you talking to?" she finally asked, trying to sound casual. "A client," Bruno replied without looking up from his phone. The day passed in an uncomfortable normalcy. Bruno left for work without another word, and Agatha was left alone, feeling a knot in her stomach that didn't leave her all day. She spent the hours cleaning the house, trying to distract herself from the growing sense of unease. That night, when Bruno returned, the tension was palpable. Agatha decided she could no longer ignore what she had heard. "Bruno, we need to talk," she said, her voice firm though her insides trembled. "About what?" he replied disinterestedly, dropping his briefcase on the floor. "About us. About what's going on." Agatha looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. Bruno turned to her, his eyes cold. "What is it now, Agatha? Can't you wait for me to relax a bit after work? It's not just about work. You've been distant, and today I heard you talking to someone. Who was it?" Agatha insisted, her voice breaking slightly. Bruno sighed in exasperation, running a hand through his hair. "You really want to know? Fine. I have another woman. I'm tired of this life with you. We're getting a divorce." Agatha froze, her face paling. Bruno's words hit her with the force of a hammer. "What? Another woman? But why?" "Because I can't take it anymore, Agatha. We can't have children. And that's your fault. I need something more. Someone who can give me what I want." Bruno looked at her with contempt, his words filled with venom. Tears began to stream down Agatha's face, her legs feeling weak. "You can't be serious. We've been together for so many years. How can you do this to me?" "I'm sorry, Agatha, but I don't care about you anymore." Bruno picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. "I'm leaving. Don't expect me to come back." The door slammed shut, leaving Agatha alone in the silent house. She sank into a chair, tears flowing freely as the weight of Bruno's betrayal crushed her. Everything she knew, everything she had loved, was crumbling around her. Her mind was blank, unable to process the overwhelming pain. The house, which had once been a home filled with love and warmth, now felt cold and empty. Agatha sat there, motionless, staring into space. The reality of her situation slowly sank in, a feeling of hopelessness enveloping her. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Agatha, with swollen eyes and a broken voice, decided to call Maria. The phone rang several times before her friend answered. "Agatha, what's wrong?" Maria's voice sounded concerned, almost exaggerated. "Maria," Agatha could barely speak, her voice breaking with every word. "Bruno, he left me. He has another woman. I'm lost. I don't know what to do." "Oh my God, Agatha!" Maria exclaimed, her tone overflowing with forced sympathy. "I'm coming over right away. Don't worry. We'll figure it out." In less than half an hour, Maria arrived at the house. She hugged Agatha with a force that seemed sincere, but her eyes revealed a calculating coldness. "Everything is going to be okay, Agatha." Maria stroked her hair, whispering empty words of comfort. "You're strong. You'll get through this." Agatha nodded weakly, too exhausted to question. Together, they packed some of Agatha's essential belongings into a small suitcase. The house, once her refuge, now only reminded her of pain and betrayal. They arrived at a cheap hotel on the outskirts of town. The place was run down with stained walls and frayed carpets. Agatha checked in, and when they entered the room, the stale air and the dim sunlight filtering through the torn curtains made her feel even more desolate. "It's horrible to see you like this, friend," Maria said, sitting on the bed next to Agatha, who remained silent. "But we need to think about your future. Bruno can't get away with this." Agatha, her empty eyes searching for a glimmer of hope in Maria's gaze. "What can I do?" "You need a good lawyer," Maria replied quickly, as if she had already planned the conversation. "One to help you protect what's yours. Don't let Bruno take everything from you." "I don't know, Maria. I don't have to fight." Agatha clenched her fists, her shoulders slumping under the weight of exhaustion. "That's why you have me," Maria insisted, her tone more persuasive. "I know someone. He's very good. He'll help you. You just have to trust me." Agatha nodded slowly, not questioning Maria's intentions. "Okay, I trust you. Can you call him?" Maria smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. I'll do it right now." While Maria made the call, Agatha began to unpack her few belongings. Each garment she took out of the suitcase reminded her of happy moments that now seemed to belong to another life. Her hands trembled as she held a scarf that Bruno had given her on their first anniversary. Finally, she collapsed onto the bed, tears welling up again. Maria ended the call and approached Agatha, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The lawyer can see you tomorrow. Everything is going to be okay, Agatha. You just need to stay strong." Agatha turned to Maria, trying to find comfort in her words. "Thank you, Maria. I don't know what I would do without you." "That's what friends are for," Maria replied, her voice sweet but empty. That night, Agatha lay in the hotel bed, the hard mattress and rough sheets making it difficult to find comfort. Her mind was filled with dark and painful thoughts. She remembered the broken promises, the lies, and the betrayal. She felt like her life had fallen apart in a matter of hours. The clock struck 3 in the morning when she finally succumbed to sleep, a restless sleep filled with nightmares. In her heart, she knew that the fight was just beginning, but she also knew that she would have to find the strength to face whatever came next. Agatha arrived at the lawyer's office with a mixture of nervousness and hope. Maria had accompanied her, her attitude excessively solicitous. The lawyer, Lucas, greeted her with a professional smile, extending his hand to invite her to sit down. "Mrs. Agatha, I have reviewed your case. I'm confident that we can achieve a good settlement for you," Lucas said in a confident voice. Agatha sighed with relief, nodding. "Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I don't know how to thank you. This has all been so overwhelming." Lucas smiled, leaning towards her. "Don't worry. I know these processes well. We're going to make sure you get what you deserve." Maria, sitting next to her, smiled and squeezed Agatha's hand, who returned the gesture with gratitude. Lucas explained the next steps in the process, his voice soft and reassuring. Agatha listened attentively, feeling that, for the first time in days, she had a little hope. As they left the office, Agatha felt a little lighter. "Thank you for being with me, Maria. I couldn't have done it alone." "I'll always be here for you, Agatha. We're friends," Maria replied with a smile. Meanwhile, in the same office, Dolores, Lucas's assistant, was organizing files when she overheard a conversation in the next office. It was Lucas's voice, and the other voice was Bruno's. "Everything is going according to plan, Bruno. Agatha trusts me completely. She has no idea that all this is to leave her with nothing," Lucas was saying in a cold tone. Dolores felt her blood run cold. She silently approached the half-open door, listening more intently. "And Maria? Does she agree with all this?" Bruno asked. "Of course, she'll make sure Agatha doesn't suspect anything. Everything will go as we planned," Lucas replied confidently. Dolores withdrew, her mind in a whirlwind. She couldn't believe what she had heard. She needed to warn Agatha. She searched her phone for Agatha's number and sent her an urgent message, asking her to meet in a discreet location. Agatha arrived at the cafe, her face showing a mixture of anxiety and hope. Dolores was already waiting for her, nervous. When Agatha sat down, Dolores began to speak in a low voice. "Agatha, you have to listen to me. Don't trust Lucas or Maria. They're conspiring with Bruno to leave you with nothing." Agatha frowned, confused. "What are you talking about, Dolores? Lucas is the lawyer Maria recommended to me. How could he be conspiring against me?" Dolores clenched her fists, trying to contain her anger and frustration. I heard him, Agatha. Lucas was talking to Bruno. This is all a trap. Maria is involved, too. They don't want you to get anything from the divorce. Agatha felt the ground crumble beneath her feet. Maria? No, that can't be. She's my friend. She's always been there for me. I know. It's hard to believe, Dolores said softly. But you have to trust me. They're playing you. You have to change lawyers and take action before it's too late. Agatha remained silent, her mind trying to process the betrayal. Tears began to well up in her eyes, but she held them back, taking a deep breath. What should I do? She finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dolores took Agatha's hand firmly. First, break off all contact with Lucas and Maria. I have a trusted colleague who can help you. We'll make sure they don't get away with this. Agatha nodded slowly, still in shock. Thank you, Dolores. I don't know how to thank you for this. You don't have to thank me. I just want you to do what's right for you. You don't deserve this, Dolores replied sincerely. Agatha left the cafe with a new determination. The betrayal of Bruno and Maria had shattered her world, but she wasn't going to let them get away with it. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to fight for what was right. As she walked through the city streets, she felt hope begin to rekindle in her heart. Agatha and Dolores stood in front of the house that Agatha used to call home. The facade now seemed cold and alien, reflecting the betrayal and pain that lurked behind its walls. Dolores took a deep breath, her resolve firm. Are you ready? Dolores asked, her voice soft but sure. Agatha nodded, her face tense. Yes, let's go. They knocked on the door, and after a moment Bruno opened it, his expression of surprise quickly turning into a condescending smile. What are you doing here, Agatha? You have nothing to look for in this house, he said, his voice full of contempt. Dolores stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Bruno. We're here to talk, and I assure you, we won't leave until we do. Bruno frowned, but stepped aside, allowing them to enter. Maria was in the living room, her face paling at the sight of Agatha and Dolores. She tried to smile, but her expression was tense. What's going on? Maria asked, her voice trembling slightly. Dolores wasted no time. She pulled an envelope from her purse and tossed it on the table. Here's the proof of everything. The deception, the false accusation of Agatha's infertility, and your fake relationship with Bruno, Maria. Bruno picked up the envelope with trembling hands, leafing through the documents. His face turned white as he read the contents. This is a lie, he said weakly. All of this is a lie. Agatha stepped forward, her voice firm but full of pain. No, Bruno. You and Maria betrayed me. You pretended it was my fault we couldn't have children, when in reality you knew the truth. And Maria, you knew you weren't pregnant, but you used it to manipulate him. Maria stood up abruptly, her eyes filled with panic. It's not true. Bruno, tell them it's not true. Bruno remained silent, unable to meet Agatha's eyes. Finally, he dropped the documents and sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands. I'm sorry, Agatha. This has all been a terrible mistake, he murmured, his voice filled with despair. Agatha felt her tears threatening to spill over, but she held them back. It doesn't matter anymore, Bruno. Everything has changed. I just want this to be over. Dolores approached Agatha, placing a hand on her shoulder. Come on, Agatha. You don't have to put up with this anymore. Agatha nodded, letting Dolores lead her to the door. As they left, she felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Bruno and Maria were left behind, facing the consequences of their actions. In the car, Dolores looked at Agatha with concern. Are you okay? Agatha nodded slowly. Yes, I'm okay. Thank you, Dolores. I don't know what I would have done without you. Dolores smiled warmly. I'll always be here to help you. Now, how about coming to my house? You can stay as long as you need. Agatha hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. Thank you. I would appreciate that very much. Agatha arrived at Dolores's house carrying her suitcase, her face marked by sadness, but also by a quiet determination. Dolores welcomed her with a warm smile and a firm hug, conveying the security she so desperately needed. This is your home now, Agatha. You'll be safe here, Dolores said softly. As she entered, Agatha noticed the cozy atmosphere of the place. The walls were adorned with paintings and family photographs, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. She felt a little more relaxed, seeing the warmth of Dolores's home. Thank you, Dolores. I don't know what I would do without you, Agatha replied, her eyes reflecting gratitude. You don't have to thank me, Agatha. We all need help at some point. Dolores smiled and showed her to her room. You can settle in here. If you need anything, just let me know. While Agatha was unpacking, she heard a noise in the hallway. Peeking out, she saw a young man moving carefully, leaning slightly on a crutch. His movements were measured, but there was a quiet strength in his posture. He looked up and smiled at her. Hello, I'm Martin, Dolores's brother. Nice to meet you, Agatha, he said kindly. Hello, Martin. Thank you for letting me stay here, Agatha replied, noticing the kindness in his eyes. It's a pleasure. If you need anything, just let me know, Martin said before continuing on his way, moving with the grace acquired after years of practice. As the days passed, Agatha and Martin began to get to know each other better. Dolores prepared simple but delicious meals, and they all sat together at the table sharing stories and laughter. Agatha watched Martin with interest, noticing how his hands, though marked by a slight stiffness, moved deftly as he drew in his sketchbook. One afternoon, while Dolores was at work, Martin sat in the living room with his sketchbook and pencils. Agatha, intrigued, approached him. Can I see what you're drawing? She asked curiously. Martin smiled and showed her the sketchbook. Sure, although it's nothing special. Just some sketches. Agatha was impressed by Martin's skill. They're beautiful. You're very talented. Martin blushed slightly. Thank you, Agatha. Drawing helps me relax. It allows me to forget everything for a while. Could you draw me? Agatha asked, a little shy but interested. Martin looked at her carefully, assessing every detail of her face. Sure, if you don't mind staying still for a while. Agatha sat in front of him, trying not to move. Martin began to draw, his eyes focused and his hands moving with precision. As he worked, they talked about their lives, their dreams, and their fears. Agatha found solace in Martin's company, feeling that, little by little, her pain was dissipating. With each passing day, Agatha noticed that smiles returned to her face more often. Martin's presence was a balm for her wounded soul. His patience and understanding helped her heal, and she began to regain her confidence. One night, after dinner, Dolores found them in the living room, laughing and chatting animatedly. She sat down with them, enjoying the moment. It's good to see you like this, Dolores commented, smiling. I think we're all finding a little peace. Agatha nodded, looking at her new friends with affection. Thanks to you, I'm starting to feel at home again. Martin looked into her eyes, his expression sincere. We've found something special with you too, Agatha. You're part of this family now. Agatha felt a warmth in her heart that she hadn't felt in a long time. As she settled into the sofa, surrounded by people who truly cared about her, she knew she was on the road to recovery. The betrayal of Bruno and Maria still hurt, but now she had the support and friendship of Dolores and Martin, and that made everything a little more bearable. The park was quiet that afternoon, the sun filtering through the leaves of the trees, creating a mosaic of shadows on the ground. Agatha and Martin were strolling, enjoying the peace that the place offered them. It was then that they noticed a boy sitting alone on a bench, his large, cautious eyes watching passers-by with a mixture of hope and distrust. "Who could that boy be?" Agatha asked, her voice low but laden with curiosity and concern. "I don't know," Martin replied. "He seems to be alone." They decided to approach carefully. Martin, always kind and patient, was the first to speak. "Hello, I'm Martin. What's your name?" he asked with a warm smile. The boy looked up, his dark eyes filled with a deep sadness, but also a spark of hope. "My name is Miguel," he replied timidly. Agatha sat down next to him, trying to convey security. "Hello, Miguel. Are you here alone?" Miguel nodded slowly, without taking his eyes off the ground. "Yes, my mum is not well, and I have no one else." Agatha and Martin exchanged a look, understanding the gravity of the situation. They spent the rest of the afternoon with Miguel, talking and playing, trying to gain his trust. Little by little, the boy began to relax, smiling shyly at Martin's jokes. Days later, Agatha and Martin couldn't stop thinking about Miguel. They decided they couldn't leave him alone in such a precarious situation. They went to social services to find out more about his situation. What they discovered was heartbreaking. Miguel lived with an abusive and neglectful mother. "We have to do something, Martin," Agatha said, her voice firm. "We can't let him continue to suffer like this." "I agree, but we have to do it right. Make sure Miguel is safe and that we can take care of him properly," Martin replied with determination. They began the adoption process, facing a series of bureaucratic and emotional challenges. Each visit to social services was a mixture of hope and frustration, but they never gave up. Agatha and Martin demonstrated time and again their commitment and love for Miguel, convincing the authorities that they would be the right family for him. Finally, the day came when they were able to take Miguel home. The boy looked at them with a mixture of joy and fear as they walked together towards their new home. "Everything is going to be okay, Miguel. We promise to take care of you and give you all the love you deserve," Agatha said, taking his small hand. Martin nodded, smiling. "You'll be part of our family, Miguel. You'll never be alone again." The first few days were an adjustment for all three. Miguel, though grateful and happy, still carried the weight of his past experiences. Agatha and Martin were patient, giving him time to adapt. They shared meals, games, and quiet moments, each contributing to forming a new home filled with love and security. One night, while they were having dinner, Miguel looked up from his plate and looked at Agatha and Martin with a serious expression. "Thank you for bringing me here. I've never felt so happy," he said, his voice sincere and full of emotion. Agatha felt a lump in her throat, but she smiled, touched by the boy's words. "We are the grateful ones, Miguel. You are a blessing to us." Martin nodded, his eyes shining with emotion. "We are so happy to have you here, Miguel. You are part of our family." Over time, the relationship between them strengthened. Miguel began to open up more, sharing his thoughts and feelings with Agatha and Martin. The three enjoyed activities together, such as walks in the park, drawing afternoons, and bedtime stories. With each passing day, the bond grew stronger, cemented by love and mutual care. Agatha and Martin saw in him a new light, a renewed hope that also illuminated their own lives. They formed a true family, a haven of love and security where everyone could grow and heal. Bruno's office, once tidy and prosperous, was now a chaos of disorganized papers and incessantly ringing phones. His business, which had depended so much on Agatha's meticulous work, was teetering on the brink of collapse. Bruno, with an unshaven beard and eyes red from sleepless nights, paced frantically around the office. "Where are those reports? I need them now!" he shouted at his secretary, his tone desperate. "Sir, I'm looking for them," she replied, her voice trembling. Bruno sank into his chair, covering his face with his hands. The company was losing customers and money at an alarming rate. Without Agatha's support and organization, everything had fallen apart. His personal life was also in ruins. Loneliness and regret tormented him. Meanwhile, Maria was in a much worse state. Her disheveled appearance and erratic behavior had alienated her from everyone. Neighbors whispered about her mental deterioration, and, finally, a nervous breakdown led to her being institutionalized. In the psychiatric hospital, Maria wandered the halls, muttering incoherently and casting furtive glances around her. I can't go on like this," she said, tearing at her hair, her eyes lost in the distance. The doctors watched her with compassion, but also with resignation. Her condition was serious, and her chances of recovery seemed slim. Maria had fallen into an abyss from which it seemed impossible to escape. In contrast, Agatha found moments of peace and reflection in her new life. One afternoon, while Miguel was playing in the garden and Martin was painting in his studio, Agatha sat on the porch with a cup of hot tea. The setting sun bathed the landscape in golden hues, and Agatha closed her eyes, breathing deeply. She remembered the years of anguish and betrayal, and how she had been able to move forward thanks to the support of Dolores and Martin. She smiled as she thought of Miguel, who had brought so much joy into her life. Although the scars of the past still hurt, Agatha realized that she had found a new strength within herself. "Agatha, are you okay?" Martin asked, peering out from the studio, his hands stained with paint. Agatha opened her eyes and nodded, her smile calm and confident. "Yes, Martin, I was just thinking about everything we've been through." Martin came over and sat down next to her. "We've come a long way, and what matters is that we're together. We're a family." Agatha rested her head on Martin's shoulder, feeling the warmth and security of his presence. "You're right, and I wouldn't trade this for anything." In the following days, Agatha continued to find solace in her new routine. The small moments of happiness with Martin and Miguel filled her heart with gratitude. On quiet nights, while reading a book or simply watching Miguel sleep, Agatha felt a peace she had never known before. She reflected on her journey, from the despair of betrayal to the renewed hope and love in her life. She understood now that every step, however painful, had led her to a place of true happiness. In the hospital, Maria continued to struggle with her demons. The days blurred into an endless whirlwind of fear and confusion. Bruno, for his part, continued his battle to save his business, but without success. His nights were plagued by nightmares and remorse, and every morning he woke up with a sense of loss that never went away. One afternoon, while walking through the city, Bruno passed by the park where he used to stroll with Agatha. He stopped and watched the families enjoying the sunny day. He felt a deep emptiness, a longing for something he knew he had destroyed with his own hands. Finally, he sat down on a bench, looking up at the sky with tired eyes. "I ruined everything," he murmured to himself, feeling the weight of his mistakes. In that same park, Miguel ran towards Agatha and Martin with a radiant smile. Agatha lifted him into her arms, laughing with Martin, Their hearts were filled with love and hope, a promise of a better future built on the ruins of the past. Agatha knew that life would continue to present challenges, but she was ready to face them with the strength and love of her new family. She had found her place in the world, and she wouldn't let it go. Agatha had been feeling different lately, with a mixture of fatigue and morning sickness. She decided to take a pregnancy test, and when she saw the positive result, her heart pounded with excitement. She couldn't wait to share the news with Martin and Miguel. That night, while they were having dinner, Agatha decided it was the right time. "I have something to tell you both," she said, trying to contain her excitement. Martin and Miguel looked at her curiously. "What is it, Agatha?" Martin asked, noticing her radiant smile. "We're going to have a baby," Agatha announced, her eyes shining with happiness. Miguel let out a shout of joy and ran to hug her. "I'm going to be a big brother," he exclaimed, jumping with excitement. Martin got up from the table and hugged Agatha, his eyes filled with tears of happiness. "This is incredible, Agatha. We're going to be an even bigger and happier family." The following days were filled with exciting preparations. They decided to transform one of the rooms into a nursery. Martin and Miguel painted the walls a soft pastel color, while Agatha chose the furniture and decorations. It was a family project, and every little detail was imbued with love and hope. One afternoon, while they were working on the nursery, Miguel approached Agatha with a serious expression. "Do you think I'll be a good big brother?" he asked, his voice full of insecurity. Agatha crouched down to his level and looked him in the eye. "I'm sure you'll be the best big brother in the world, Miguel. You're loving, brave, and you always think of others. This baby will be very lucky to have you." Miguel smiled, relieved, and returned to his task with renewed enthusiasm. Martin watched the scene from the doorway, feeling a deep gratitude for the life they had built together. Finally, the day came when everything was ready. The nursery was a reflection of the family's love and dedication. Every corner was filled with details that showed the care and excitement for the arrival of the new member. One morning, while they were having breakfast together, Martin took Agatha's hand and looked at her with love. "Thank you for everything you've done for us, Agatha. You've transformed our lives and given us a family. I couldn't be more grateful." Agatha smiled, feeling a deep peace in her heart. "And you have given me a home, a place where I truly belong. I'm so happy that we're together." Miguel, always observant, chimed in with a mischievous smile. "And don't forget that we'll soon be 4, he said, pointing to Agatha's belly. They laughed together, enjoying the harmony they had found. The days passed peacefully, filled with small joys and meaningful moments. They shared walks in the park, game afternoons, and bedtime stories. The presence of each was an anchor of love and stability for the others. One weekend, they decided to spend the day at the park. Martin brought his drawing materials, Agatha prepared a picnic, and Miguel couldn't wait to play on the swings. As they walked towards their favorite spot, Agatha paused for a moment to observe her family. Martin, with his calmness and strength, had been her rock in the most difficult times. Miguel, with his energy and curiosity, reminded her every day of the beauty of life. And now, with a baby on the way, her happiness was complete. They sat on a blanket under a large tree, enjoying the sun and each other's company. Miguel ran back and forth, laughing and calling his parents to watch him. Martin took the opportunity to draw his family, capturing the essence of their love and happiness in every stroke. "This is a moment I want to remember forever," Martin said, showing Agatha the drawing. Our family, united and happy. Agatha looked at the drawing and then at Martin, feeling a surge of love and gratitude. It's beautiful, Martin, like our life together. As evening fell, they gathered their things and walked back home. Miguel fell asleep in Martin's arms, and Agatha watched them tenderly. She knew they had been through a lot, but each challenge had strengthened their bonds and made their love deeper. As the sun set on the horizon, Agatha felt at peace. They had found their place in the world, a family built on love, kindness, and resilience. And so, with the future full of promise and the present overflowing with happiness, they walked together towards a new chapter in their lives. Hello, dear friends and followers. Thank you for joining me until the end of this heartwarming story. As always, I want to leave you with a final thought. No matter how difficult the times we go through, there is always a reason behind everything. Trials and challenges strengthen us and prepare us to receive the blessings that are to come. If you liked this story and want to continue enjoying more inspiring and moving content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories I have prepared for you. Thank you for being part of this community and for your constant support. See you in the next video. See you soon.